Hey, hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to show you guys how I go about using the Virtual Capo in the Fx, not only at gigs, but at home when I couldn't be bothered retuning a guitar. But before we get into it, today's video is sponsored by X-Vive. They were nice enough to send me out a set of the T9 in-ear monitors. These are dual armature drivers, meaning that there are two separate drivers in there, so it's going to separate the low end from the high end, which obviously gives you a bit more separation and makes for a clearer sound in the ears. You can get in-ear monitors that have more drivers, but with only the two, these are quite clear and sound really great. So you can see that I've got them here in my ears. They are clear and they do stick out just a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like, you're not going to notice that unless you're really looking for them. The end on there is fairly long, so it's going to get right through into your ear ball and comes with a whole range of different tips on the end to fit basically any shape ear, more or less. Same as with their other products, X-Vive do include a little case for you, so you can carry that to your gigs. That's all the different ends in that little pouch. There's a little brush with the little pick in there so you can clean them out so you don't get too disgusting. And they did include a little stereo adapter for the end so you can plug into, for example, an interface like I have today. X-Vive are a great company. They've got some really good products that are very affordable and they all are quite good quality. They work and do the job. Definitely check them out. So I decided to use these today because I'm talking about the Virtual Capo. Now, when you're using a real capo, you stick it on your guitar and it changes the tuning of your guitar, as you would know. Essentially, you're moving the nut here along and you don't have to do a bar chord. You can Ed Sheeran it all the way up the neck. In the situation of the Fx, the guitar stays the same, but the audio is tracked and then replicated, and what you hear out the speaker is what is different. So, sitting here in the room, if I've got the speakers playing, I can still hear my beautiful G chord, but once I start playing in the Fx, it's going to be different and it doesn't sound nice. So, headphones. At a gig, if you don't use in-ear monitors, you're not going to notice the tuning anyway, so don't worry about that. First of all, this is the patch. I've got a version of this patch available on my website if you like it. I'm using the Dirty Shirley on the clean amp and the Brit 800 mod for the crunch, heavy and the lead tones. So this patch I use when I'm doing my cover gigs. I use just the one patch and I've got multiple scenes set up to do all of the different sounds. More often than not, I'm not going to have a second guitar with me, let alone one that's tuned differently. If I do take a second one, it's just there as a backup and I keep it tuned the same. So I'm tuned to E standard at the moment. Now let's say, for example, it's time to do some Guns N' Roses. I'm not going to play Sweet Child of Mine in E standard. It's just going to sound wrong. So what I do is I bring in the Virtual Capo, pitch down half a step. Every once in a while I get tired, or I've got some songs that I just don't want to sing as high as they are. So I'll go down to D standard. I want to break free. Easier than having to sing it up here. I want to break free. And then I do also have two other options. It's not very often I'm going to go down that far. There are some situations where I take guitars that are tuned to E flat and I might need to do a song up in E standard. So the fourth situation here is a semitone higher. So it tracks really quite well. I have a Digitech drop and it sounds okay and it tracks poorly. As in, like, there's a little bit of latency on that and it's definitely noticeable when you play. This is leagues better. I can't really notice it. Maybe I can. I'm not 100% sure. But if there's any latency in that, it's really not much. Processing power is fantastic. So in this situation, when I've got the Virtual Capo on, I don't want it to turn off mid-song. So you want to make sure you click this little scene ignore button. That seems maybe pretty obvious, but you don't want to overlook it. Now that has to be done on every channel. If, for example, I'm on number 4 here and I go back to A, you can see there that the scene ignore is off on channel D, but it is on channel A. So make sure you go through each scene and turn it off. So the setup is pretty simple. Shifting, 1 semitone, 2 semitones, 3 semitones. Half step, which essentially is just 1 fret different. The detune, I don't like to muck with that. The only time I found actually that has come in handy is when I'm jamming along to And Justice for All or Ride the Lightning. Any of those early Metallica albums, they're slightly higher in pitch. Turn your pitch block on in those situations and just pitch that up. I found about 10 cents and it fixes it really well. Now the tracking, you can either choose the block input or the input source itself. I've chosen to go with input 1 because I figure if it's getting it direct from the source, it's going to be better quality in the end. You have 3 options here: chords, notes, and off. Can't imagine why you'd want it off. Chords is the way to go, I'm led to believe, when you're playing this kind of thing. Notes is supposedly for single note lines. Now, if you're going to be doing shred solos and stuff, I'd probably still recommend going with chords because you want it to be picking up more of what's going on. Tracking, adjust, I'm not 100% sure what that does. So I think that increases the latency. 5 feels pretty good. I reckon if you go too low, if that's what it is doing, I reckon if you go too low, it's going to be working harder and it may, in theory, have more chance of running into problems. So 5 feels fine, leave it at 5. Input gain 100%, mix 100%, level, don't touch it. Now the low cut and high cut, you could adjust those if you want to, but again, I feel like I want it to be as accurate to the guitar as possible, so I leave those alone. So that is what it looks like in the pitch block. It's pretty straightforward. What I do on my FC controller, I just find a button. So I use that one because it's kind of out of the way. I'm less likely to bump it, although, you know, that can happen. Let's just reset it all. So in order to set it up, this is the button I want to do. So the first button is the tap. For me, I want this button to be the one that cycles through the channels on the pitch block. You could do it the other way around, but that's what I'm going to do. So that means that the hold function here is also going to be the effect. I'm going to pick bypass, find pitch number 2, because that's the one I'm using, and that hold is going to turn it off and on. This one here, I want it to be channel increase and decrease and upper limit D. So I'm cycling through all 4 there. Why is it saying amp 1? Because I need to change that to pitch 2, and you can see the button there adjusts accordingly. So that up there is the pitch block. So now if I hold it, it is on, and then I press 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's how that works. Now you can see on the display there, bypassed and enabled. So just make sure you're paying attention to that screen there when you're doing it, and you'll know exactly where you're up to. And one more little thing that I've set up in here on number 8. This is a bass patch. Now I do some live looping, and this is going to be the bass line and the bass patch that I'm going to be putting into some songs. Quite simply, what I've done there is assigned the other pitch block to the Virtual Capo as well, and I brought it down a full octave, 12 semitones, and more or less the exact same settings. Apparently I've had that high cut there, but I'm going to put that back up. Now pitch, that one could be notes, I reckon. Because I'm going to be doing a bass line, I don't need chords. Let's hear what the difference is. Look, it's pretty good either way. So I'm just going to leave it on notes. Actually, I think that might be nice. So I haven't done the see and ignore or anything on that one. I did use 2 amp blocks. On number D, letter D, channel D, I've got the Porter bass, and I changed the cabinet here to the 1x15 Porter bass on a ribbon mic because it's a bass sound. So I've got this low pitched thing coming in and it's hitting a bass amp. Sounds more bassy than any other bassy preset I've ever made using a guitar, and that's pretty cool. So there we go. That's how I go about using the Virtual Capo in my Axe Effects. I think it is killer. I can't get over how quickly it tracks and changes the pitch of the guitar. It's amazing. You can jam along to anything and still feel like you're playing in real time. It's pretty phenomenal. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And to everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. See you next time. Look around, the familiar sight. All the demons in the daylight.